Hi guys, welcome back to AFTV and welcome back to the Tactical Insight Show. I'm here with Graham. We've got a lot to get into. Arsenal dropping points at home to Palace. It could have been more drop points. It was only the 2. We did nick a goal at the end. We're going to go into it all. But first, how are you, Graham? How you doing?
I'm very well, mate. Obviously a very difficult week for me personally, James. Last Friday was the first anniversary of the passing of my mother, Hazel Brooks. People that know me know that my love for Arsenal came from my father. But my mother gave birth to me. I took my first breaths in front of her. She took her last breaths in front of me. So it was a very emotional day last week. I no longer see her with my eyes. I no longer touch her with my hands. But I feel her inside me. I feel in my heart. I feel her every day. I miss her terribly. The best part of me is her. So, so a difficult day for me personally. But congratulations to yourself and to Robbie, to Turkish and to Cecil for the awards last week, the Football Content Show. That was capped off a very fine year for you personally and for the team. So many congratulations on that award.
Thank you, Graham, and obviously I'm so sorry for what happened a year ago.
Thank you.
Let's get into the football. A 2-2 draw, a game. We say this every week. We like to apply context to it all. What did this game mean for Arsenal? What would the picture have looked like going into it before? Because I always think it's important. We've discussed it, that a win on Monday night against Palace and building on it with a win against Villa, and we would have, despite everything that's gone on at the start of the season, we'd have been in the top 4 going into the weekend. You had some feelings going into this. Kind of what was the main context around the game before it for you?
Well, I think this was an interesting one for me because it was the first time that an Arsenal game you had 2 former Arsenal players going head to head.
Yeah.
The last time that was the 24th of January 1995 when Alan Ball, who used to play for Arsenal, brought his Southampton team to Highbury and played against George Graham's Arsenal, and it was a 1-1 draw. So this was an interesting game for me to just see where we were. You had an ex-Arsenal legend, Patrick Vieira, gone in at Palace, changed everything, ripped up the blueprint of Crystal Palace almost, the way they used to play under Roy Hodgson. They're playing more of a possession-based game now. They're playing out from the back. He's made some astute signings, £78 million spent. Some good players have come in. They're playing some great football. But he's only been there for 8 games, or 7 games. I think this is his 8th. And already he's transformed them. So this was, I think, a test to see where Arteta's Arsenal were. Arteta's been there nearly 2 years now, James. And just to see how those 2 managers tactically, how the game would play out with those 2 managers in place. So, as you say, it was a big week for us. 2 wins against Palace at home and Villa at home. We could potentially go into Saturday's next round of games in the top 4. Yeah,
there you go. You're right. We spoke a lot about Vieira and Palace, and going into the games. Perhaps people felt maybe a bit too much, but I think the credit was deserved because there were questions about what Vieira had really done in management. He'd had experience, but I don't think he'd done anything that was massively noteworthy. Maybe I'm being harsh. He did fine. He did okay, but there were question marks.
They've played some very good teams this year,
well, that's exactly my point.
Although they've only beaten Tottenham, they've only lost to, I think, Liverpool and Chelsea.
Yeah.
So, but you can see already he's putting his stamp on the team.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing that you can immediately take. Palace fans can take out of it already. So look, going into that game, he's working with inferior players. To me. And he went into that game without his best player, Wilfred Zaha.
Yeah.
And Zaha is the most fouled player in the league and the most pressured player in the league.
Yeah.
So he had to find a way to cope with that loss. I think we're going to go into how he coped with it quite well, using Edward and Ayew in wide positions to support Benteke, and how he caused problems for Arsenal between their 2 number 8s and Partey in our 4-1-4-1 shape.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of exactly the point I wanted to make, was that, I've been very pleasantly surprised by the start he's made as Palace manager. Let's go into the match stats.
Yeah.
Perhaps the most misleading set of stats I've ever seen, because they paint the picture that Arsenal were dominant and unfortunate not to win the game, and I don't think anything could be further from the truth. Obviously, we had 17 shots there, 9, 6 on target each. We had more of the ball. Really didn't feel that way, and I think it's wide possession stats. Often it's about when you have the ball and where you have the ball. We might have had the ball a lot, but how much was spent, with our goalkeeper and our centre-backs, and in areas where we weren't dangerous, where Palace were happy for us to have it.
Yeah. I think you could already see how much Vieira's improved them. Their possession last year was less than 40%, about 39%.
Yeah.
It's up to 50% this season, but this was 46%. They have more short passes now and build up than they did before, and their pass accuracy's increased. So I think, looking at that game, I think Palace dominated the game.
Yeah.
I have to say, we made a good start, and Palace dominated the game. We're very unlucky not to win the game.
Let's touch on that good start. 1-0 up. Aubameyang gets his goal. I'm sitting there thinking, we're starting to see Aubameyang, the poacher Aubameyang, find his feet again. Obviously, goal against Norwich. He kind of did okay against Burnley. Then goal against Spurs. Back amongst the goals again against Palace.
We talked, didn't we, how his record at the Emirates, something like 50 league goals and 76 appearances. Another one. Yeah. Three goals now in 3 straight games at the Emirates. So and this was, as you quite rightly said, a poacher's goal.
Yeah.
A build up down the left hand side. Lovely 1-2 between Tomiyasu and Pepe. Pepe then gets into the area, gets his shot away. The goalkeeper does make a good save, but Aubameyang's alert, reacts at the far post and tucks it in, and we're off and running.
I liked it because we made a good start to the game. We were on the ball against some nice areas. Saka looked like he had the beating of Joel Ward. We were imposing ourselves, and then even though it was, you could say, a tap-in after a save from a goalkeeper, I see more than that. I think the 1-2 between Pepe and Tomiyasu was very classy. Pepe had made a bright start. I thought it looked okay in that first half. And then Aubameyang just instinctively knowing where to be, knowing where that ball's... And it was a good start, but we don't build on it. And this is the thing that frustrates me more than anything, Graham. We want to talk about Arsenal off the ball and Arsenal on the ball. We're going to talk off the ball. Why do we make a start like that? We go 1-0 up. We look fairly in control. They've not got Zaha, so their main counter-attack threat isn't there. And for whatever reason, we just lack anything off the ball after that. What is it for you?
Yeah, I think if you look at the lineups, we went with we thought it was a 4-3-3, but it was a 4-1-4-1. And I think Partey sits back really to protect the two centre-halves. I think he's worried about the aerial threat of Benteke, so he played him deeper again. And then you've got these 2 number 8s, Odegaard and Smith Rowe, in front, and then you've got the 3 wide players. Saka this time was on the left. We know he's better on the right, but he went to the left to accommodate Pepe coming back in on the right. On paper, that looks to be our best team, you'd say. Whether it worked in formation, it worked at Burnley, of course, with Odegaard and Smith Rowe at number 8. Odegaard often dropping deep. But it didn't work in this game. There were reasons for that. First of all, I think off the ball, we lack intensity. The pressing last night, Aubameyang was the one lone player pressing from the front. Every time Palace... We know that under Vieira, Palace like to play out. I thought Arsenal might have done some homework and tried to think, they're going to play out more, so we've got to press as a unit. Aubameyang was the only player I thought last night who was pressing. The other 2 wide players, Saka and Pepe, were not, I didn't think. And so we didn't really sort of pin them in doing that. I think, again, credit to Vieira. I look at the passing... the PPDA, the passing per defensive action. And we talked
Just explain that to people.
I'll explain that to people. What that is, the amount of passes a team allows before it engages in either a defensive tackle or a defensive action like an interception. Now, Arsenal at the moment are 19th in the league. That shows a lack of intensity off the ball. Only one club is lower than us in passing per defensive actions, which shows we are not intense enough off the ball. You have to blame the coach for that. Palace, on the other hand, so Arsenal allow, I think, 16 passes per defensive action, right? Palace only allow 12, and they've jumped from 17th to 10th. So Vieira has improved them in that area as well. So we're not intense off the ball. We weren't pressing well enough, but I think it goes further than that. A lack of intensity off the ball, a lack of composure on it, that we allowed Palace to grow into the game. Once Palace grew into the game last night, they did after our good start, we didn't seem to respond to what they were doing. I mean, we have offensive players on the pitch, Odegaard and Smith Rowe, who for me should be receiving balls from Partey in good positions to start really affecting the play, using our wide players. Now, last night, for some reason, we're going to look at it on what you've created here. We don't seem to sort of like make the most of those players, the talents they have. I thought we sat quite deep at times last night, and I think that when we were playing forward, as we're going to show here on the graphic, You know, you want Odegaard and Smith Rowe to get in positions where they can make progressive passes and use the Saka and Pepe, who really need to make runs in between the defenders, and Aubameyang as well, to play up the shoulder to make these runs. It doesn't happen. It's all about positional play for Arteta. And these players were frequently during the game not making those passes and recycling the ball back. In the game, Odegaard and Smith Rowe, who are number 8s, only made a combined total of 4 progressive passes in the game.
Yeah, shocking.
And that is a shocking statistic, isn't it,
Yeah.
when you're at home? That tells you that maybe we're frightened, that we're worried about what Palace are doing. I know you've got a theory around the way the wide players have to work around the fullbacks. What's your theory on that?
Well, I really wanted this to be my main focus of analysis from my perspective as well today. Because I was watching Saka and Pepe, I was at the game, and we were saying off screen that sometimes when you're at the game, you kind of notice things, because you obviously you see the whole pitch, and you'll notice something might be happening in one corner, but you're going, well, what are they doing over there? And the thing that really struck me was how unbelievably deep Pepe and Saka were. I don't actually blame them. I think Arteta's asked them to do that. And also how hard Aubameyang was working to get back, which sounds like a good thing. But especially when you're at home, there's got to be a degree of offering something going the other way. So the first thing I wanted to have a look at was our average positions. So obviously we've got the starting 11 here on screen. Now if I show you number 7, 8, 10 and 19, that's Pepe, Smith Rowe, Odegaard and Bukayo Saka. Now what strikes me is A, that Saka's average position isn't far off Kieran Tierney's. But also that it's just a flat line. The 4 are just a flat 4, and when you watch modern 4-3-3s or modern 3-men midfield, your wingers are more like inside forwards these days. And Arteta had them playing as out-and-out old-school wingers whose jobs were to get up and down, but also protect their fullbacks. Now the modern fullback actually gets up and down. So what really surprised me was A, how defensive we were, having gone 1-0 up, having known that there was the opportunity to hit Palace on the counter-attack, who were going to have to be a bit more open and a bit more expansive. And what I wanted to do was almost illustrate this in a kind of, like, this wasn't a motion we necessarily saw in the game. They're just examples of, it's just how I can best illustrate what I think happens during the game. So Arsenal in that first half, I thought, had moments where we actually won the ball in midfield quite a few times. Aubameyang came back, made some nice tackles. Partey on the recovery. Smith Rowe worked really hard. But I'm going to play something along here. So Milivojevic, and this is all hypothetical, loses the ball to Smith Rowe in midfield, who is trying to get forward. Now what I was noticing often was Smith Rowe looking up and thinking, Where's Pepe? Where's Saka? Where's Aubameyang? Where are they? Because what we essentially had was players, I'm going to illustrate it here. If I just get my little circles up. We had Pepe, Saka and Aubameyang almost level with Smith Rowe when he was winning the ball. Their starting positions were so deep that there was never really an opportunity to counter-attack. There wasn't an opportunity for penetrative runs where you could cause Ward, Anderson, Gehi, Mitchell problems. You know, asking them questions, they're basically saying, we've won the ball now. And I described it on my fan camp to Turkish as, when we're playing Liverpool and we have the ball, and we've got the ball in midfield, I'm always thinking, don't lose it, because Mane and Salah will hit you immediately. And that was the thing that I found so worrying, was how we just didn't lack any threat when we did eventually win the ball in midfield. Now, you mentioned lack of press, which I think is a problem in itself. But if you're going to sit back, at least offer something on the counter-attack. Now, I appreciate I'm talking a while here, so what I'm trying to say is, how does that look? How should that look? Well, if I just illustrate this here, again, this is a kind of almost a slight correction of what I want to see, where I've got Aubameyang slightly further ahead on Anderson and Gehi, and I've got Saka and Pepe a little bit more narrow. So when Smith Rowe does come in and win that ball, you've immediately got Pepe and Saka in areas where, okay, if Smith Rowe doesn't find that ball, maybe it goes inside to Partey, but you've immediately got triangles and you've got combinations that can work there. And I just found it so frustrating that we weren't giving ourselves the best opportunity for a counter-attack.
Yeah, I agree with that. And what we also saw in the game was Tierney in this game didn't get up high so much.
He didn't.
He didn't at all. He literally did not. Normally we criticise him for almost like starting high and staying high.
Yeah.
But this was the complete reverse. He wasn't going high at all, or supporting the attack to provide the width when we were going forward. The only time he got in was when he got in when we went almost like a a 4-2-4 in the last 15 minutes when we were chasing the equaliser, and he thundered a shot against the bar. So, and Pepe was always hugging the touchline as Saka. It's almost like, not Saka, Arteta instructs Pepe almost like to stay out wide, hugging the touchline. So the points you make there, I 100% agree with. There's almost like when we get the ball, that explains why Odegaard and Smith Rowe, there's never a progressive pass on.
No.
And they're always having to turn back because there's not players forward to receive the ball making the runs. There's not enough movement or forward players making movement, I think, more the way to look at it. And that was a big problem against Palace. Why Palace got hold of the game and why questions have to be asked of Arteta that he doesn't respond in games. It's almost like we play a certain way, teams get involved, get a foothold in the game, and he can't seem to go to this plan B to adjust to it. He made a point at half in his post-match last night where he adjusted it second half. I think the only reason he adjusted it second half, which we're going to talk about later, is because Saka got injured by that ludicrous MacArthur challenge. But that's when he brought on Lacazette and changed it slightly. But basically, we struggled really to create. We're a goal to the good. Asking Palace, what have you got? Palace coming out, sort of like making an impression on the game, and we didn't respond to what Palace were doing. Palace grew into the game. Conor Gallagher, I thought, was excellent last night for Palace. He was starting to get involved with his pressing and his neat passing, and he was a figurehead for them. And we're going to talk about how they created problems for Partey. But you are fundamentally right in what you said. That's why we struggle to create.
Yeah, I completely agree. Let's talk about those Palace goals. You can say 2 errors from midfield, and it was. I would also argue that I think players are getting the ball into dangerous areas because they're being instructed to. There's not always an obvious pass on, as we've been saying, the progressive pass is so low. But it is still so frustrating that we lose the ball in midfield twice and they capitalise on them. Let's start with that Benteke one.
Yeah, I think that you first of all give credit to Palace for their pressing. They did press us into errors. So although we made the errors, Palace made them happen. So you've got to give credit to them.
Yeah, agreed.
And that's the fundamental change of Vieira's already instilled in the team. And it's I think Tomiyasu who plays a pass back to Partey, who gets caught right in possession. And the moment that ball comes through, and Io is the one who's come inside to challenge him, and it breaks the Benteke. I think that Gabriel has to defend that situation a bit better. James, I
agree. I was surprised for someone who's such a big. He's got such a stature, and he's also quick. I thought it was really poor from Gabriel.
Well, we've praised him. He's made 9 games, 6 clean sheets since he's been in the team, and he's been a massive influence on the way we've improved defensively this season. But I can't believe Arteta doesn't sit his defenders down and we look at what Palace offer. Now, we know that someone like Zaha can go both ways maybe, but we know Benteke and Ed Ward have only got right feet, basically. They're right-footed. So when they get into that position, why would you not try and get Benteke to go onto his left foot? He literally allows him to come across onto his right foot and get the shot away and beat Ramsdale. And we have to say that Ramsdale kept us in it in the first half with an outstanding save from Conor Gallagher, and he was probably our best outfield player tonight. But yeah, we didn't defend that situation very well. Partey was caught. Partey had a poor game last night. I think he was dribbled past something like 7 times in the game, and he struggled in that lone pivot role that he's asked to play in that 4-1-4-1. He gets caught, but not for the first time. But I just feel that Gabriel should do better against Benteke. Credit Benteke the way he gets it onto his right foot and gets a good strike away. But I think we could have, even though we lost the ball, we could have defended that situation better.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Ben White dropping back. I actually thought, because I know that we're obviously being critical of White and Gabriel here, and rightly so. Actually, in the first half, the reason it maybe looked more comfortable than it was because I thought our back four and Ramsdale actually marshalled Palace away from our goal really, really nicely. Yeah. So I want to give them credit for actually first half. I thought they were really sharp. They dealt with everything. But the more we got outrun and overrun in midfield, the more our back four were having to deal with one-on-one situations. Yeah. And eventually something's going to go wrong. Or, you might make a mistake. And I thought Ben White, who generally I thought had a good game, was really, really poor for that Edouard goal. And you're right, why let him have that strike?
Yeah, I think the thing that happened in that second half, Lacazette came on at half-time. We shifted from a 4-3-3 or 4-1-4-1 stroke 4-3-3 to a 4-2-3-1, basically. Yeah. And Laconga's the guy that gets caught. The issues that Palace were creating for a second half was the way, I think, again, a tactical decision by Vieira. He had his 2 wide players, Ayew and Ed Ward, who were playing either side of Benteke, they were coming inside.
Yeah.
Coming inside into the gap between Odegaard and Smith Rowe and Partey. So Partey was getting overloaded in the gap, and Arteta didn't seem to adjust it. Lokonga came on and did make a slight difference, but Conor Gallagher also coming inside. It was almost like they had 3v2 all the time.
Yeah.
They seemed to sort of like pick up the pockets. We talked about the way we want our players to pick up the pockets. Their players were picking up the pockets, and they were the away side dominating us. And Partey was struggling, getting dribbled past a lot, and they were getting at our back four. So basically, the goal comes when Lokonga is to dispossess up high, and again, it's a brilliant bit of pressing by them. They break quickly and they get the passing exactly right. I think it's Conor Gallagher actually who wins the ball, and then he gets the pass and he's driving, and then it's played across to Ed Ward on the right side of our box. Now Ben White has to go and engage with him, in my opinion.
I couldn't agree more.
He's backing off. But if you're going to back off, or I don't think you should back off, but I think you've got to try and, knowing he's right-footed, try and make him go to the left.
Yeah.
He's backing off and then just allowing him to get a right shot away. Now, I know that on the night, there was a bit of criticism online about Ramsdale because it was centre of the goal. I thought that was a fantastic strike.
Really?
Yeah, and
I did feel Ramsdale's starting position was a bit low, like he was anticipating a low strike.
Possibly. But having said that, was he slightly obscured by Ben White?
Absolutely could have been.
But it was a brilliant strike, and Ed Ward, a fantastic hit. But I think, again, tactically, they were getting... They were creating these dangerous situations where they're getting their forwards into good positions through that, being able to sort of bring their wide players in, creating overloads between our number 8s and our back four. And Partey was struggling, and at that stage, 2-1 up, we then flipped immediately. We then literally went 4-2-4. We literally got all our forward players on the pitch. You had Pepe on one side, Martinelli on another, then Lacazette came on, who we're going to talk about, had a massive influence in the way we fought back in the game. And then we ended up with Lokonga and Smith Rowe almost like anchoring the midfield, and then we were just going for it. But we created, as Arteta said, he was pleased with the finish, that we created some chances, and we did. But we were literally then just throwing everything at it, and it doesn't bode well when literally we've been dominating the whole second half and we're trying to retrieve a game in the last 10 minutes. But I think we need to focus on Lacazette, don't we? The influence he made when he came on.
Absolutely. And by the way, I just want to say that I thought Ramsdale was terrific and probably our man of the match, or more likely Lacazette as well. Lacazette's our man of the match. But I thought Ramsdale was terrific, and some of his distribution as well. I always put out there because I had doubts over whether he could have done better for the goal, but you're right, White probably obscured him. Let's talk about Lacazette. What an impact he made. I'm not going to bite my words anymore. Arsenal are a better team with Lacazette up front. And I've made that decision. I kept thinking, well, maybe if we tweak the formation, maybe if we have enough number 10s in the pockets, we can get the best out of Aubameyang. I know that I've been praising Aubameyang because he's got 3 goals in his last 5-6 games now.
3 and 3 at the Emirates.
Okay, 3 and 3 at the Emirates. You're right. He's looking a bit sharper, and he's working really, really hard. He's working really hard, and he's trying. I'm not questioning his attitude or his application or anything. I just think Lacazette's fundamentally better at doing what Arteta wants his striker to do.
If you're playing that sort of system where you've got your 2 number 8s and you've got those creative players, you need someone then who's going to hold the ball up and play these number 8s in, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what you need. He offers something that Aubameyang doesn't. It's almost like you're crying out for a bit of both strikers, aren't you? As one striker, almost a hybrid striker. But Lacazette is clearly better at bringing Smith Rowe and Odegaard in the game. Odegaard, it was almost like anonymous last night, to be fair, was taken off. So I can't sort of like keep talking up Odegaard as having as being influential in this game. He was not. But I'm just saying, if you're going to play him, Lacaz's the one who would bring him into play. I sometimes think, why can't we flip to a 3-5-2 and get both Lacazette and Alba up top in a 2?
Emery made it work for a while.
And we play like Tomiyasu, White and Gabriel as a 3. We could play Saka and Tierney as the wing backs and play those 3 midfielders, Partey, Odegaard, Smith Rowe, slightly attacking. Then you've got Lacazette and Aubameyang up top. It gets them both in, doesn't it? And it gets them close together.
Maybe that's a solution.
But Lacazette, just coming to Lacazette, are you going to put his numbers up there? I think we need to talk about it, don't we?
Yeah.
There's his numbers there, stats against Crystal Palace tonight in comparison to Aubameyang. They're both our goal scorers last night. Lacazette came on, I think, 67th minute.
Yeah,
he had 2. I mean, the first thing I noticed straight away is him and Aubameyang were linking up quite well.
Yeah.
And when he came on, he did make a difference to the team.
Absolutely.
And Palace got pushed back more. 2 key passes there. passes in the opposition half, he's not far short of Aubameyang, who played the whole game.
Yeah.
And he had more shots on target than Aubameyang, who played the whole game.
More key passes.
And more key passes. So everything about him was, he's saying to Arteta at the moment, I want to be picked.
Yeah, and
he's not sulking, is he? He's not sulking. He's coming off the bench, James, and he's making a difference. He made a difference at Brighton, although he didn't obviously win us the game, and he saved us the game last night. And his record as off the bench, I think he's now got 9 goals as a substitute.
Yeah.
Only Giroud, I think, was 17, has scored more goals as a sub for Arsenal. So he's making us. He's not sulking. He's coming on the pitch and he's trying to make a difference. He's saying to Arteta, "Pick me," isn't he? He's making a case to be picked.
Absolutely, and he comes on and he injects energy. He turned to the crowd. He tried to get them going.
He got the crowd going.
You know, and he, you know, at a moment where the crowd was feeling a bit subdued and just waiting for something to happen, he was there trying to make it happen. And that was at 1-1, by the way, because I think it was still only 1-1 when he came on.
Yeah.
So I really like Lacazette's performance, and he did save us, and he might well have saved Arteta's job. I mean, who knows? But you know, it was he made a huge impact. It's the link-up play, but I also look at some of our best performances last season. I know we lost at Wolves 2-1, but that first half we were superb. He's leading the line. Leicester 3-1 away, we win. He's leading the line. Old Trafford, he's leading the line. Our win 3-1 against Chelsea, we're 3-0 up, basically, you know, just over halfway into the game. He's leading the line. I feel we're just a better team, and what Arteta's trying to do links and works better when he's leading the line. And a better manager comes in and gets the best out of Aubameyang by using him in the way Rodgers uses Vardy. For his work rate, yes, but his running beyond, his stretching defences, his pace, his instinctiveness. Arteta doesn't want to do that. He wants his players to fit Arteta rather than him fit what we've got. And if you're going to do that, then Lacazette, for me, fundamentally has to lead the line. And I thought he was terrific and absolutely worth speaking about. Let's move on to the goal that he obviously gets. He gets the equaliser. Now, I'm going to hold my hands up and say this might be my worst recreation of a goal ever. But you know what? There's some fundamental bits that we just want to mention anyway. Now, I put the Palace players here without numbers and names simply because it was far too complicated trying to figure out who was who in that absolute melee. I pretty much got the Arsenal players, I think. But you wanted to mention, obviously, James McArthur getting away with that foul on Saka.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. And it's ironic that I think McArthur staying on the pitch almost, well, I wouldn't say it helped us, because had he been sent off at 1-0, which he should have been, and we're going to talk about that when we come to the roundup, we would have been 1-0 up and they would have been down to 10 men. It would have made a massive difference, and I would expect us to win the game from that position. But him being on the pitch did, in almost like in the end, help us in a way, because as we're going to see this develop in a minute, we get a corner, we're chasing the game, of course, and we scored both our goals. We hadn't scored from a corner, 34 corners we had this season, hadn't scored. And these weren't from direct corners, they're from second phase, but recycled almost. But they came from set plays from corners, and the first goal came originally from a corner, coming out, and then Pepe playing the 1-2, and then Aubameyang turning in when when Pepe's shot gets saved, Aubameyang turns it in. Came originally from the corner, and this came from a corner as well. When it gets pushed out again, Pepe's the one who gets it back into the box. And what we're going to see here is that in the melee, that once it goes back in, I think Gabriel by now has gone centre forward.
Well, that's it, and that is one thing I'm playing it here, and that's the one thing I'm going to give Arteta credit for. So I've just made an error there. Is that when
the ball comes in, Gabriel's in there causing chaos in their defence, and Aubameyang, you notice, has peeled right over to the right side. McArthur is very worried about Aubameyang, and I think he's not like a defender who can just sort of like be calm in that position. The defender's more calm. I think he panics, really, because he's worried about Aubameyang. And what he then does is he then comes onto the line. Now, if you stop it there, as he's heading towards the line, the other thing that happens quite cleverly here is when it gets headed out. So he's heading back towards the line now. Palace head it out. Ben White is in the penalty box. He anticipates really well. So the two key things in this goal for me are Aubameyang causing chaos at the back stick, which worries McArthur. He then makes the mistake of going to the line, but ultimately played Lacazette on when the ball comes out. And Ben White then reading what's going to happen when Palace try and head it out, he gets into a position to have a volley back towards the goal, which the keeper makes a good save with his foot, but it comes out invitingly to Lacazette on the side. You can see the shot come in. Keeper saves it. Now McArthur's on the line. It goes to Lacazette, who puts it in. Now, if McArthur hadn't been on the line, Lacazette would have been offside.
Yeah, there you go.
So almost like poetic justice in a way, that the guy who should not have been on the pitch ends up inadvertently being in a position that saved us. But having said that, had he not been on the pitch, maybe we would have won the game.
Agreed.
Anyway,
Absolutely.
So that was the goal creation, and we got out of jail.
Great spot from you, I hadn't even noticed.
Got out of jail.
We absolutely did. You're right with everything you said, but I'd rather he was sent off. And it was a sending off, wasn't it?
You know what? I've seen it on social media. I watched it because I didn't watch the game live last night. I had to watch it when I got in from work. He cleans him out. I just cannot, for the life of me, understand why that's not a red card.
If people might think I'm exaggerating, Ryan Shawcross made connection with Aaron Ramsey in a very similar way. It was that kind of almost a strike through the leg. And if it had had similar consequences, and people who might say I'm exaggerating or over the top here, obviously I can't measure the force of the kick or the intent.
It was a follow through,
right. But the point is, it's a similar action, isn't it? The laces into basically the back of the leg.
It's a full throttle follow through on him, James. James, don't cut him any slack here.
Yeah.
Don't cut him any slack. Now, if Saka had appeared at the last minute into his vision, and bearing in mind Saka had just been booked something like 40 seconds earlier for a tackle. MacArthur and Saka ended up getting yellow cards within 40 seconds of each other. Saka for an offence, which was a yellow card. Are you telling me that is the same, should have the same penalty as what Saka had?
It's a blatant red card.
Look, if he appeared in his eye line quickly, he would have more excuse, but he must have seen him. He was there in front of him. And he full throttle volley on his calf.
I know.
High.
Yeah.
That is dangerous play.
Yeah,
and it puts Saka out of the game. So Mike
agree.
Dean is literally looking straight at it. Now we talk about, I judge players sometimes. Every footballer makes a mistake. Every referee makes a mistake, right? But I judge footballers on the big moments. Do they make a mistake when the big moment's there? Referee, that was his one big moment last night. He had to get that right, and he got it horribly wrong. He should be sent packing now to the Championship. And the guy that sits upstairs, Banks, I think his name is, who should have overruled him, he should be sent packing as well. Aubameyang, 2 years ago, was sent off at Palace, originally a yellow card for a tackle, which was rightly upgraded to a red, right? Why does he not upgrade that? Why is that not an obvious error?
I couldn't agree more.
Everybody who I've spoke to, every pundit I've listened to, said that as a red card. Dermot Gallagher, they wheel him out, don't they, to defend these referees. You know, Peter Walton's another one who finds an excuse to justify referees. Even they were struggling to justify this.
It's unbelievable.
And that tells you everything. Mike Dean should not referee in the Premier League this weekend. He should be banished to the Championship. The biggest decision of the night he got wrong. And I'm not trying to take any credit away from Crystal Palace, who I thought deserved to win the game last night. Yeah. And I thought they were excellent. I was so impressed with Crystal Palace.
We've given them a lot of credit and praise.
We're not trying to take anything away from Crystal Palace, but we're saying that referee made a shocking decision last night. Yeah. And MacArthur should not have been on the pitch. He should have been sent off.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I think there was even a second potential yellow card offence that he decided not to. It was shocking. And listen, you can have all the...
I don't normally get animated, James, but I was livid with that.
No, I agree with you, but I'm used to this now.
I don't swear much, but when I watched it, I really lost it.
We didn't meet him there, by the way. That was him. Yeah, you know that.
Shocking.
I felt like this before, but I'm used to this level now of refereeing in the country. You can have all the.
That's why we don't get our referees in the World Cup, you know.
You can have all the technology in the world, but if the people using it are too incompetent to use it, it doesn't matter. It's the same. You're going to ultimately... I've seen things over the years since VAR's come in and thought, wow, we really thought technology would be the answer, but it's the guys using it. There's a... I don't know. Do you know what? You've covered it brilliantly. I think there's a lack of common sense. I think there's a lack of understanding of the game sometimes. I sometimes wonder whether the people governing the game actually ever bloody played it.
Mike Dean needs to start refereeing kickboxing. That is it, isn't it?
Laurie said the last time we saw something like that was in the Octagon, UFC stuff. You know,
to me, I mean, it's sad that we're having to talk about that because I enjoyed watching that game last night, and I can't emphasise strong enough how impressed I was with Crystal Palace. And I don't want that to deflect away from the fact that they should have won the game and they were better than us in the game. But unfortunately, a referee once again has got himself talked about.
Yeah.
And we don't want referees to be talked about. They're going to
agree.
make mistakes, but the big decisions they have to get right, James.
Yeah, completely agree. Well, look, that pretty much rounds here. We've hit the half-hour mark as always, guys. Thank you for joining us on the Tactical Insight Show. Graham, obviously, we'll be back. We'll be talking next week about the Villa result. Hopefully, it's
I'll
a
be
win.
there Friday, by the way.
You'll be there. Fantastic. Great.
looking
So
forward to it.
look out for Graham's fan camp. Guys, let's really discuss this in the comment section. Lacazette, should he be starting up front? That, for me, is my big takeaway from all this. How do we improve? I think he's a big part of it. If we're not talking about a new manager and all that, and a new process and all that, then internal solutions, I think Lacazette could be one of them.
Let us know if you think Lacazette and Alba should start as a 2.
There we go.
And maybe we should play them as a 2 up front with 2 wing backs, Saka and Tierney on one side, and we go with the 3 midfield: Partey, Odegaard, and Smith Rowe as a 3, and then we play the 3 centre backs. Would that suit us better at the moment? You know, because clearly something needs to change. We're not creating, are we?
No.
And I think we need to get Lacazette and Aubameyang. I know the Pepe fans are going to be in my comments saying, "Where's Pepe?" Because we upset the Xhaka fans. I have to say that me and you, we just look at games objectively. We've got no agendas, me and you. We've got nothing against Pepe, nothing against Xhaka. Nothing against Arteta. I'm not Arteta in, Arteta out.
Yeah.
I just call it as I see it, and so do you. We're both very like the way we think about the game, about Arsenal, but and there's no agenda from us. And so look, should we go with Aubameyang and Lacazette? They worked well as a 2 last night.
They did work. Yeah.
And I know people can say early in the season you said only pick one of them in Arteta's 4-2-3-1 shape. Only pick one of them, but why not change to get them both in that shape, which would complement them both together.
I completely agree. Let us know in the comment section, guys. As always, like and subscribe. Go check out the Bias Premier League show if you want to hear what Robbie and White Yard have been saying about it as well. And yeah, it's a really hectic week. We're going to have loads of stuff coming out throughout. And Arsenal play Villa on Friday night. We have to win that game if we've got any chance, I think, of setting a tone for a successful season. Graham, thanks as always. We will see you in the comment section and next week. Cheers, guys.